Elon Musk expressed his disagreement again with unions, stating that they create a kind of negative environment within companies. And he said that last week in an interview. So in Sweden, Denmark, and Norway, where Tesla sells loads of cars, even though there's only sort of, Norway, 5 million people, Sweden, 11 million people, but, a lot of people there buy EVs from Tesla. They sell a lot of cars there, and labour unions are particularly strong in Norway and Denmark and Sweden. About 90% of Sweden's population, or working population, are in a union, and 80% of Norway's working people are in a union. So the strike was started roughly about a month ago by IF Metal, a major Swedish automotive sector union. This started after Tesla basically, they didn't just refuse, but they actually just refused to recognize the request to, the request of the union to sign a CBA agreement, which was basically talking about wages, pensions, and insurance. So just a very basic level commitment in this context anyway, a pretty basic level commitment to just maintain a healthy workplace for Tesla employees, just as a sort of, I guess safeguard, or just sort of to show that you do care about Swedish employees. That's kind of the whole idea of this. Unions in Sweden and Norway and Denmark definitely work, and they are definitely not the same thing as the ones that you might be thinking about if you read the news in the US, for example. So they're just not the same greedy beasts in that way. So the strike has spread to Swedish dock workers and electricians, which is like a solidarity thing, and other workers impacting Tesla's operations in Sweden. And I may have mentioned to you in the last video, which I'm sure I did actually, that they, even the post office, or Post Nord, were told you're going to get a big fine, a fairly big fine actually. You've got a week to make sure that the registration plates for the cars that are not even offloaded yet get delivered within a week. It's this sort of solidarity thing for, people not being happy about this in Sweden and Scandinavia now. It's going quite deep. So Danish union 3F has shown solidarity with the Swedish workers, blocking potential workarounds for Tesla to bypass the strike. And one of those would be, don't drop Teslas off in Sweden, let's just drop them off in Denmark and then move them up. For example, that's the kind of workaround that they're sort of dealing with. So unions in Finland and Norway are also considering actions in solidarity with the Swedish strikers, because they've literally put this up on their website, saying this is what we're thinking about doing, which is really, really good and transparent. I really like that. So Tesla employs around 120 workers in Sweden, and they face significant challenges because of this. And this may go to court. I don't really know how this is going to end, but I imagine that Tesla will give in the end and sign it, and this might be a big deal. But I could be wrong. I don't really know. Let me know what you think in the comments. Some people would think that's nuts to say that, I think. A collective agreement in Sweden is the norm. 90% of workers there are a member, of a union, so you can't really dismiss that and just not pay attention to that. The strike highlights fundamental conflicts between Tesla's approach and the traditional Scandinavian model of labour relations, and it has implications for the Swedish labour market's future. If Tesla are given this 1 inch, then other companies will take a mile. That's the idea. That's the stress. Let's not start this snowballing effect of companies thinking, well, if Tesla can do this, we can do this too, and then we can take this somewhere not so good. And Swedish people have a lot to lose here, because they've got a very fair and just system, and so that's why I think, is it Norway or Sweden, they were voted the happiest place to live, and over those last 8 years. So you have a bit to think about there. This dispute is set against the backdrop of this massive revolution, global EV revolution, and the changing industry, just within the car industry, basically, and where cars are made and how they're delivered, with workers seeking some form of job security, simply because AI and autonomy is on the horizon. So they're obviously quite concerned. So now is more, this is more of an important time to just give your workers that confidence that you do care about them to some degree, and just commit to basically not sacking them off and getting a robot to do the work of 50 people, basically. That's kind of where we're going with this. The strike's outcome in Sweden could have wider implications for Tesla's global labour relations, of course, including efforts by unions in Germany and the US to organise Tesla workers themselves. The strike is really highlighting what happens when a global company like Tesla goes against a traditional labour framework in a country where things are much more fair than almost any other country in the West. I mean, it's almost incomprehensible to, for example, and I mean this in the nicest way possible, for people in Britain, for example, to understand just how fair the system is in Scandinavia for Norwegians and Swedish people. It's really, really good, and it's hard to comprehend. I mean, I think I read something on the internet years ago, and it said, people who make pizzas in a pizza shop get paid more than an American teacher. That's true. And they, people at 20 years old can buy houses and go on holidays and do lovely things. Whilst now we're seeing that people can't really afford to buy houses when they're 40 in the UK, for example, or, Anyway, the world is changing, so this is a big concern. People are just wanting a bit of security. Tesla should be giving that and willing to give that. Basically, nobody disagrees with this. Occasionally, 1 in 100 comments, there is someone who says that this is silly and Tesla are doing nothing wrong, and and that basically all Tesla employees are rich, which I don't agree with. But Tesla can't expect to do the same deal in every country, especially if you operate with taxes and leases and staff in countries that are basically polar opposites, such as very corrupt countries where wealth is much more important than fairness in society, and then in countries where residents, well-being and health is prioritized. This is not going to work. You can't do a blanket approach with this. You don't need to be that smart to see that. It's quite common sense. Common sense should prevail. Still, Elon is, he's a businessman. He's obviously a smart guy. I really like his work. I like Tesla's. I'm just not seeing why he would be so bullish about this at all. Nothing against the guy, though. There are some things that he does where you just think, really? Did he just do that? So if you didn't see the video the other week where he basically, he's in the middle of an interview, and he quite aggressively says about advertisers, they're kind of pushing him and blackmailing him a bit, and he basically sort of goes, advertisers should go and themselves. I think that's wrong. I'm not a big fan of that. I don't think you'd want your boss to say that. I think you should you have a lot of people working for you, and you should, I suppose, not be doing stuff like that. It just doesn't seem very clever. And, it's a bit gauche. So this is supposed to be a credible guy, does things like that. To me, it's shocking. I'm an English person, so I think that's just a bit crazy. I can't imagine, an English person, an English boss doing that. And I definitely can't see a Scandinavian boss standing up on Skavlan and saying that sort of stuff, So I've always liked his mission with changing the world and EVs and talking about, carbon capture and all sorts of things. I can tell he has some common sense, of course. But with regards to SpaceX, though, that's probably an exception. We can't even get things right on our own planet, Elon. We live in a place where people on the same street can be multimillionaires and own a private jet. And then there'll be people on that street who can't eat tonight. So if we can't do that, why on earth are we sending rockets to Mars to try and populate Mars when we can't even get it right on the first planet that we know for a fact is lovely? So it makes no sense to me at all. So when things are looking good, let's do that stuff, but let's probably just save the money, save our time doing that. Like I said, the Swedish people are well within their rights to strike about this because they hold their ways of doing things really close to their chests, and you've got to respect this, I think. Tesla also generally making good changes in the world, and I think that's what we need. So you've got to you cut them some slack in a way, haven't you? But where do we draw the line? I think this is an issue. Do they not know that people are just looking for job security, and by just sort of putting that in writing when it's the norm in their culture to do that, what's wrong with that? So put your comments below for everyone to see, because they get read by loads of people. Probably before the time I've seen the comment, there'll be loads of people commenting or liking and all sorts of things on those comments. So I try to read my comments every day, and I really do try to read them every day, often within a couple of hours actually. And yeah, thanks for watching to the end, and consider subscribing. And also, I don't always say it, but thank you a lot. Thank you very much to the people that joined on YouTube memberships and Patreon. They're only $1.50 or something, so really appreciate it. Thank you very much, and really has helped. And it's nice to just feel like a little bit less stress in my life. Knowing that I'm getting a little bit more money from YouTube and YouTube members and that sort of thing, so I can keep on doing these videos feeling a bit more clear. So thank you.